I'm doing a little vlogging this morning. I am in a school library. This is so exciting. It's right before my presentation with the little kids. So I'm super excited about that because they love to be read to. And so I'm going to be reading my children's book story that I wrote and illustrated. It's in book dummy form. So it's not hasn't been like a finished book yet, but it's the early process work. I'm gonna flip my camera if it'll let me, and so you can see my setup. All right, so this is the setup. I have these tables the media specialist was very kind to set up. So they have crayons and pencils here at the center of the table. And these are the little crafts that I'm doing with the kids. So we're making either a cutout paper tiger for the older kids, or we are drawing a little cartooning and making a tiger drawing. This is for like pre-K through first grade. And so there's like a little handy printout right here. So they get something to start with, have enough copies for each of the kids. And then the same for the cutout here to save time because it's a 30-minute rotation with the kids. So this little printable that the media specialist was so kind to print out. And so I have the scissors and things ready to go for pass out. And then that makes it easy peasy. So yeah, there's about 10 minutes between each group of students. And so get them set up. And then for the little kids, I kind of jump in right away to reading the story just because, they're ready to read and have fun. So we jump into that and then I'll go into the drawing activity. And that actually takes about 30 minutes. For the older students, I'm kind of going into more about the artwork over here and talking about like how I make things, how I think about the process of creating a book dummy. So just depending on the age range, I go into more in-depth like kind of information. So yeah, it's been a wonderful visit. This is such a cute little library. I mean, it's not actually little. This is big. Like, look at the ceilings, all this light. It's so nice. What a great space. A little area with the chair. But yeah, it's been fantastic.
Hi everybody. So I'm in my car and sorry for the shaky phone, but I just finished 2 days of school visits at a lovely elementary school and I shared my work with the students. I read one of my book dummies and just had a fantastic time with them, and I thought those of you who are interested in doing school visits, some tips that I recommend as you plan out a school visit and you approach a school to share your work. And these were things that after now I've done, I don't know, I think I've done 4 or 5 schools, one museum, and then also a library. So these are some things that you might want to think about. So when you're planning to actually go directly to the school, number one, know where to park, because every school is different and their parking lot and their setup is it's just different. So it's great if you can get a map of where to park your car. What was great at the elementary school I visited at, I could drive my car right up to an access door. I still had to go in and of course check in, so that they knew I was in the building, and then I could drive my car to the access door. Like, you just wouldn't know this unless you asked. So like knowing where to park. Also know when the car rider pickup. So if you're starting the day, I recommend like do it at a time when there is either before or after car riders, because otherwise that line is really long and it could block your access of getting in and out of the school. Number 2, the next tip that I have for you is pack everything the day before. As much as we think like, oh, I'll remember things, I always pack the night before everything I need for my presentation, just to be certain. Like, I bring original artwork that I've made, I bring my portfolio for the students to see, and sometimes the magazines my artwork has been published in for children's related market. So those are good to have ready to go, because you're just not going to remember it when you're early in the morning, school hours, and trying to be like, oh, do I need this or not? So I always pack everything in advance that I'm going to need. So yeah, very helpful with that. Number three tip I have for you is, well, like, have a cart. I mean, like, it may seem like, oh, every school's different once again. Like, some schools have those big audio visual carts. And so if you ask in advance, like, oh, can I borrow a cart so I can load my stuff in and out to transport? It's much easier. I ended up buying my own cart, and it was so worth the investment because it folds up and down. The audiovisual carts don't do that. I mean, but you're just borrowing that to load your stuff and take it to and from. But I found that a lot of times, instead of having to make extra trips, I will go ahead and I pack my own cart in the back, and it's fairly decent size. So, and I'll put like a link to the cart so you can look at it and don't get any kind of kickback on it. It's just, if you want to look, there's even better carts that are bigger, and I wish now I go like, ooh, I could use a bigger cart. But mine folds down. It's very compact, and then it'll fit into the back of my trunk of my car. Works great. And then it's easy peasy getting in and out. So yeah, definitely a cart is very helpful, and it makes it quick for packing and repacking things in and out of the school. Number four is definitely, I've noticed as I do the practice on my presentation, especially with a live audience, because then you get feedback right away. Is this working or not? So I'm lucky because I've had a lot of teaching experience. So being an art teacher, and of course I build that in. If you can, and if you're in a situation you're not an educator, but you are going to be presenting to kids, I really encourage you, practice with somebody's child. If you can borrow some friends' kids, trust it out. Make sure that the pacing is going to fit the time frame that you have. I ask that I get an itinerary for the day, and so I know like what ages are coming to me, because I adjust. I do not do the exact same presentation, because a lot of times the skill sets of a pre-K is not going to be the same as somebody who's in 5th grade. And so sometimes some presentations are more informational heavy, and I cover more of the background behind the scenes of being a children's book illustrator. And then other presentations are more scaled down, because that audience is like, want to hear the story, we want to get to it. And so think about what's appropriate for the group of students you are speaking to, and practice. So practice makes perfect, and it helps. And even, I guess, even if you're not really around a lot of children, practice yourself. And like, when I first started teaching as an art teacher, what I used to do, because I would like wonder if I'm gonna flake out and like forget what I'm teaching, because I would usually teach 8 classes a day. I made a little checklist. I don't really need it now, but when I first started out, it was very helpful. Like, just some talking points that you want to cover so you stay on pace. So a little cheat sheet, a little post-it note that you can put next to wherever you're presenting, and that can really help you remember things as you are going along. I guess, let's see, number 5, when you're doing a school visit, something that I like to consider is just, actually during the presentation, and I took some video and you can see the setup, but it's like, find out what your audio visual setup is for whatever school you're at. And these are in person. It's different, of course, if you're doing virtual, and I guess I could do another presentation for that as well. I've done some virtual school visit, but they were more geared towards what I do as an illustrator technique wise. So it's like very different. Whoever you are working with at that school, just make sure that you're prepared with your presentation file. Like, I always have a backup USB flash just in case, something happens. I always share the file with, with the media specialist, but just in case, I bring an extra copy with me. They're really cool now with some of the technology they have at the schools, with the boards that you can just draw on with your fingers and things like that. So if you know in advance, then oh, I don't have to bring a big pad of paper or an easel or anything like that. We can just live draw on their touch screens and things like that. And then if they don't have things like that, how are you going to, if you're doing like an actual activity like I do, then, how are you going to get like 50 students to see that at one time? If it's like, you're trying to draw something and you're holding, it's just really hard. And so I found that anytime they can project it onto a bigger screen, or if they have like one of these Ziggy or Elmo cameras, they can just like, record your hands as you're doing it and then project it larger. But I did really like using, once I got the hang of it, I was like, this is great. It was this, touch screen, and then I could draw with my finger. And then I had like the setup for this cartooning that I did with pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. It was already preset, and then they could follow along as I drew on the board with them. So yeah, I think that's kind of the 5 things that I really try to make sure of when I'm doing an in-person school visit. One more tip. Here's a bonus tip. If you are not sure, this is what I do whenever I start the visit, because every school has a different way of doing their classroom management. And so when I talk about classroom management, if you're not an educator, for those people who are like, want to go ahead and do school visits, I check with the kids. So when you start a presentation, as they're coming in and I'm just, saying hello to them, I ask them, so what does the teacher do to get your attention? What does the teacher do to get everyone to be quiet? And so every school has different rules about, some do hand clapping, someone said, give me 5. Some students have something that they will say out loud, and then, the, teacher will have them repeat it back to them. And so these are basic classroom management things. Also, if you are waiting for another class to come in, because I'll do like, I think I had 3 classes in a session sometimes. Sometimes I had 2, sometimes I had 1. So say you're waiting for one class, get familiar with playing the childhood games that you used to play, that we forget about. Like Simon Says is a great one. Every kid knows Simon Says, and you can be Simon and you tell the students, okay, Simon Says, put your hand on your head. Simon Says, take your hand off your head. Simon Says, put your hands in the air, put your hands down. Oh, and it's just a fun way to keep it lively, and then, keep the program going, and then you're not, having students be distracted, and they have something fun to do between waiting for the next group to come in, and then you can get started, because, things are happen, and being flexible and understanding, that's part of being in a school setting, and it makes for a better time for everybody. So those are my little tips for if you ever do a school visit, and to make the best of the time that you have with the students and make it enjoyable for everybody. So thanks for listening. Yeah, but thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe down at the bottom for future notifications for other videos. And thank you. All right. Bye.